Hello, guys. Bob here for TNL Network. Welcome to Tuesday Night Live. Tonight's TNL show, we have another first-time guest. She is a wig, why did I mess that up? She is a master wig designer with an MFA in costume technology, including wigs and makeup design with years of professional theater experience. She is one of the most trusted creators of handmade Santa and Mrs. Claus wigs and beards in the world. Her company has served the Claus community for more than a decade with a fully hand-tied, bespoke piece built in their Louisville, Kentucky studio. TNL is thrilled to welcome someone whose artistry shapes the very look of Christmas itself. This segment of tonight's show is brought to you by North Pole Cornerstones, a new, unique, and entertaining 4-day educational experience. This is Tuesday Night Live. All right, everyone, please give a kind word or two in the chat for my crazy and fun-loving co-host. And while you're at it, be sure and send some love to our gifted producer. Here is Spangle the Clown and Angela Mack.
Hello, everybody. Look up there. There she is. She is live and in person. Welcome to tonight's show. This is going to be fun.
Going to be a fun show.
Hello, Angela.
Hello, Spangle. Hello, everybody.
Good to have both of you with us. As always, you can experience us on your bigger screen where the experience comes alive. That is over on YouTube at the Tuesday Night Live Show 1225. All right, first half of the TNL Show Trivia is brought to you by School of Santa's 2026, hosted by Spangle in picturesque Ozark Mountains, Branson, Missouri, where fun and education meets. Don't want to miss it.
Do we want to show that one little promo real quick, or do we just want to go on past the dudes?
Promo like we always do?
The Cherry Hill promo?
No?
You don't want to do that? Okay.
Well, sure, if you got it set up. All right, Spangle, she's going to put that up on the screen. And
It's fun. It's fun. We already got trivia up. We'll go past it.
All right, good. And this is going to get your name in the hat, guys, for a drawing for North Pole Cornerstones, which will be drawn at the end of this year. And also, which is a sold-out show at Branson, you'll get your name in the hat for that. And we're going to draw that, I believe, at the end of this month, Bob.
Coming up pretty quick, isn't it?
Yeah. So, anyways, here we go with some polar trivia. Which animal lives at both poles? Now we need the letter and the word. So, A, Arctic fox. B, imperial penguin. C, sea otter. D, seals. And E, none of them. Okay.
But wait, there's more.
There's more.
More bonus question.
Oh yeah, I'm getting ready to go. Okay, now for the bonus question. Okay, and you threw me for a loop on this extra credit one because I don't see any question for that one. But
Sorry.
anyways, which animal has the thickest fur? A. Sea otter. B. Arctic hare. C. Polar bear. D. Arctic fox. And E. Santa Claus. Oh wait, Santa Claus isn't there, is it?
It's not on
Okay,
the list, but it should be.
yeah, possibly, huh? Well, I guess they would only have the thickest hair if they had a custom wig beard.
Wig
Yes,
Company.
yes,
Yes, correct. Absolutely.
yes.
Now,
Okay,
Angela, do you want to play that Cherry Hill real quick?
so get your keyboards going and get them answers in there. Look at it, you got a chance to get a ticket to the sold out show. I had a guy call me today, said he wants to get in. He goes, "How about if I pay you extra?" I said, "Let's talk." No. Okay, is she going with the Cherry Hill?
Well, we want to give everyone a chance to look this over for a moment before we do, and that was my thinking, and it's my mistake for getting mixed up on this. Yeah, Cherry Hill's got a special promotion that they've been doing. I'll go ahead and kind of talk about it. They've teamed up with us for the rest of the season. If you come and watch the show on Tuesday night, there's always some little trivia fun thing that they're going to do on the Santa Central Cherry Hill Programs Facebook group page on Wednesday. Tonight at 12:01 a.m., that's shortly after midnight, they will put up their trivia. It's actually not a trivia this week. It is a riddle me this question.
Okay, pause for a minute. I'm gonna put it up.
Okay.
All right.
So watching Win Tonight, Tuesday Night Live. This is from Christy Haynes. Santa, Bob, and the TNL crew will be reading a special riddle during tonight's show. Think you know the answer? Head over to the Watch and Win video that we'll play. The question that we'll ask here in a minute. Well, I cannot talk tonight. Wednesday morning post and drop your guess to a chance to win. And I'm pretty sure that they're still giving away hats or T-shirts of your choice. It's
Some
Santa
swag.
Yep, absolutely. Do we want to read the question now? Do you have it, Angie?
We'll do that in the second half of the show.
Okay, we'll do it where we had it written into the script. So we just wanted to mention that now. That way, if anyone is interested in doing that, you'll be ready when Riddle Me This comes up. All right. Remember, you can win the trivia associated with this scholarship drawings as many times as you can. No limits. This is good for as Michael mentioned, your name in the hat for School of Santas in July and North Bow Cornerstones in February 2027. All right, let's go ahead and play our next one and we'll move along.
I wasn't ready for it. Did we already do Branson? No.
She's looking for it.
Um,
Santa and Company.
y'all always throw me off, man. I've got some.
Since 1948, one suit defined Santa. Designed by Charles W. Howard and worn by the world-famous Santa Claus School. Worn for presidents, movies, parades, and the most magical moments in families' lives. This is not a costume, but finely tailored, hand-sewn clothing made in the USA. With expert cleaning, restoration, and storage services available, Santa and Company LLC makes Santa magical.
All right, speaking of magical, this is where the magic happens. We're going to do good from here on. Over to Spangle for our guest.
You just blew that when you threw it to me. Hey, anyways, tonight on TNL, our special guest is one of the most respected wig artisans in America. She took her passion for craftsmanship and turned it into a company that now serves historical interpreters, Broadway performers, tribute artists, cosplays, and of course, Santas and Mrs. Clauses around the world. Since 2010, her company has been the gold star standard for handmade, hand-tied wigs and beards each one built from scratch. She and her team create the iconic looks that help Christmas performers step fully into character with comfort, realism, and artistry. Please give a warm welcome and a huge round of applause for Custom Wigs Company's very own Heather Fleming. Welcome.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Wow, did you write that or did Bob write that? That was nice.
I'll never tell.
Well, and on top of that, Spangler was kind of running out of breath there. There was so much going on.
Yeah. All right, Bob.
All right, Heather, welcome to TNL. We're excited to learn how you bring magic to life one strand at a time.
That's good. I like that.
Custom Wig Company is known for Santa wigs and beards that are lifelike, cool, comfortable, and durable. Tailored to the wearer, yes, with client input on color, density, style, and details. A major upgrade from machine-made sets. Our question, what first inspired you to begin designing wigs, and when did you realize it could become a full-time career?
Oh, well, I was in graduate school at the University of Illinois to get a degree in costume technology, which is basically sewing clothes, sewing accessories like hats, and some wig and makeup stuff. And I learned really quickly my first year that I was not good at sewing anything. And I was really good with wigs. And so it was kind of a no-brainer to go, all right, I'm not great with the sewing machine, but I'm okay with hair. So let me focus on that. And I was just very lucky that opportunities presented themselves very quickly for me to learn a lot and realize that it was a path I wanted to follow. And then opportunities continued to open up as I finished my degree and got out into the world. I was able to get a lot of great show and jobs at various theaters, and that really let me kind of focus in on what I wanted to do and learn a lot because you kind of just have to figure it out yourself once you're out there working. There's nobody to go ask for help or anything. So you learn a lot because you have to figure it out. So that's where I sort of got into wigs from. It was a little bit of luck, a little bit of just serendipity, and then me realizing that I really liked it and it was a good fit for me. So that's the beginning of it.
So you didn't just go up to bald guys like this and say, "Hey, I can fix that without Rogaine"?
I have never said that to anyone, actually. Even still, 25 years later, I've still never said that to anyone.
All right. So how did your theater background shape the way you approach wig building today?
It's an interesting question. I think in part because, like I said, when you're out there working at a theater, most of the time, often at least, it's just you. You're a team of one, and you're trying to figure out things. And with wigs, a lot of times, that what you're trying to figure out is something that is new. Maybe there's not a plan or a template you can turn to. There's no pattern. You have to kind of figure out how to make this work. Like, what does this need to be? What does this show need? What does this need to look like? How's it going to work? So you kind of have this sort of, you just learn how to problem solving on the fly, I guess. And I think that sort of going, okay, sure, no, I don't know how to do this, but I'll figure it out, meant that when some Santas reached out to me and said, do you think you could make Santa beards? I didn't say, oh, no, I don't know how to do that. I've never done one of those, so I don't think that's something I could do. I went, I've never done one of those, but you know what? I will figure that out and work on that because that sounds like it would be a really cool and interesting thing to do. So it kind of prepared me to just hear that and just go, yeah, all right, sure, let's make that work. And that was 2008, and here we are now.
So she kind of just covered the next question there, Spangle. So go on to yours.
All right. So I'm kind of thinking if you started that one around 2008, it wasn't much longer after that I got my first one from you.
I think that's true. I think you were 2011 or 12. So, yeah, you were one of our earliest clients. Once I had officially made the business, once I sort of figured out, okay, yep, here's how we're going to do these, or at least it's our starting model for how we're going to do these. Yeah, I think you were one of the early Santas to come in and get fitted, and drove all the way in from Missouri to Louisville for it too.
One of them old guys. All right. So how long does it take to make a wig or beard?
Well, it depends a little bit on the piece, of course. And unfortunately, the answer to a lot of wig questions is it depends. People always ask questions and it depends. But most of the time, a wig is going to be 40 to 60 hours of labor before we get to styling. And a beard is going to be 20 to 40, depending, again, size, length, how big the person's head is, how dense the piece is. All those things affect how long the build takes. And then once we get to styling, of course, the more complex the style of something, the longer that part takes too. So it's kind of a two-part process. Part one is we're sitting down and we're building the pieces. We're sitting there and tying each of those hairs in. And then part two is the styling part where we make it look good and look like the person wants it to look.
Now, are you tying each hair individually, or are you putting like 3 or 4 together and doing that?
The lower part of the beard, the hook, there's a tiny hook we use that we're like kind of latch hooking those hairs in, and it will pull 2 to 4 hairs maybe. The size of the hook kind of dictates that. So for the back portions, we do tie with a slightly bigger knot, so each knot might have 2 to 4 hairs in it. But once we get up to the front or the hairline on the beard, so here or here, at that point we're tying a single strand into the lace because we want to make sure that it looks as natural and realistic as we can. So we want those knots to be as tiny as possible. So they need to just be literally a single strand of hair.
I don't know. I don't pre-read our script or anything, but like how many strands go in a typical beard? Do you know?
Well, I've never counted, but one of my former mentors did actually know someone who took a square inch of a wig foundation. And he counted the hairs in that square inch, and then he sort of used some math to guess, okay, if we extrapolate this out, and he came up with 40,000 hairs in a wig. But like I said, I've never stopped to count. I don't know anyone who has, so no one's ever checked the math, but that's what we tell people. A wig has 40,000 strands of hair in it, and I don't really know about a beard. Let's say half. Let's say 20,000. Let's just say that.
Now, I have heard that you cannot count your own hair.
I've never tried, so
Yeah, I heard it's just impossible.
I wouldn't want to.
yeah, I don't know. I don't think I'd want to take it on the challenge.
Okay, anyways. Okay. That was called the rapid fire there, Okay, can you walk us through the process of building a custom wig or beard from scratch and what they're made of?
Sure. So the first thing is when someone reaches out to us, they let us know what they're looking for. If it's a Santa, we have some criteria on our website they can look at. Beards are sized by how long and how full they are. So we sort of encourage them to say, like, okay, start with what kind of scale you're looking for. Do you want something that's a realistic scale, or do you want, the biggest, longest beard we can make? And so we take feedback from them as to, okay, this is what they want. This is their vision for this. They look maybe at our style guide and pick some style details. Maybe they have a picture of something they like. They send us that. Maybe they want us to replicate their own whiskers. There's a million inspiration points for that those come from. But that lets us know what the scope of the project is going to be. And then we get that finalized and we ask them for a tracing of their head if they're getting a wig and their face if they're getting a beard. And that involves the client either at home or coming to our studio, wrapping their head in plastic wrap, the stuff you use to cover up your leftovers after Thanksgiving, and tape, clear tape. And Spangle has had this done, so he knows what I'm talking about here, and he survived the process. He was very brave. We do this tracing, or the client does it and sends it to us, and the hairline is drawn on it. So the shape of the hairline, front, back, side, ears, mouth, nose, any landmarks of the face and the head. And that lets us build a piece to fit the person's head or face, even without ever seeing them in real life, because we don't actually see a lot of our clients in person ever. So we have that. We put it onto a canvas head that's the right size. We do a little bit of padding to make sure that it really fits that plastic mold we end up with. And then we hand drape the foundation materials on top of that and hand stitch them right on that padded head. And that way we know that foundation is as close to being pieced on their head as is possible without actually having their physical head in front of us and sticking pins into it, which we don't want to do. Then we tie every hair into that foundation, and how we tie them and how we put them in depends on, again, style and the choices the client has made. But we do all that, and like I said earlier, that takes 40 to 60 hours for a wig to do. And then we style it. We barber it and style it to be whatever style, if it's wavy or curly or whatever someone has asked for. And so that's like the really basic version of that. There's a lot of back and forth with the clients, consulting on the details of their piece, because we want to make sure that if someone is going to do this, we really want to make sure it's exactly what they want and what they're picturing. We send photos to them when it's done so they can see, okay, here's what it is. Does this seem like what you were expecting? Do you have anything you want us to change or adjust on it? And if they're a long distance client, then we ship it to them. And sometimes they'll come pick it up in person, but most of the stuff we ship. We do all of it long distance.
I think if I remember right, I was kind of worried when you were putting that plastic on around me that maybe my wife had sent you an email about taking your time when that was wrapped around me.
I'll throw this up on the screen for you, Spangle.
Yeah, thanks.
That's good. That's good.
That was the best comment so far.
Yeah, I didn't see who wrote that. Who wrote that?
John Schnegelberger.
Oh, okay, good. Thank you, John.
So, Heather, what makes a hand-tied wig fundamentally different from, say, a machine-made one?
Well, the biggest difference is not only is it hand-tied, but in our case, we've pieced the foundation to fit the person's head, which makes a big difference because you could have two different people with 22-inch heads, but their heads are probably completely different shapes. So a wig that fits Spangle might not fit you well at all, even if your heads are the same size. Head shapes are different. So right there, you're getting a change because this thing is literally made to fit the shape of your head. But then when we tile those hairs into it, we're able to control where quite literally every single strand of hair is on that cap. So if we need to adjust the density at any point, we can do it literally on a hair by hair level. If we need to put a center part in it, we can tie the center part into it. While we don't really do this for Santa wigs, we can tie a cowlick into a wig if that's called for, if it's something that we need to replicate. I mean, we can get down to that level of detail and nuance. We can make sure the hairline looks really natural on the person who's wearing it. By hand tying that, we're able to feather out those little hairs all through here so that instead of a hard line across here, like a lot of machine wigs have, you have this delicate, light, transparent line of hair that are just literally single strands tied up there. And so when you put it on, it looks like it's growing out of your skin rather than sitting on your head and making a heavy line across there. So those things all really make it, I think, a more custom, obviously, but also a more natural, realistic product when it's over. It's also a lot cooler to wear. There's a lot more airflow because there's just not that density of kind of that heavy fall of hair with a lot of machine wigs. They're just strips of hair that have been sewn in, and that can get quite heavy and quite hot for a lot of people. So that's another advantage too, is that they're just lighter and cooler.
Kevin Bernhardt wants to know, yak or human? Do you offer one or the other or both?
Both. It depends on the project. Most of our stuff is human hair, but if somebody wants yak hair, or if some of our styles, we do use some yak hair to get the right texture and body, because yak hair has a great texture and a great feel. But most stuff is mostly human hair.
Now, is it Asian hair that you use mostly?
We buy it from a supplier in California, and they are probably buying it from a number of sources and reprocessing it. So when we get it, it's been completely stripped of whatever color and texture it had naturally, and it's been then dyed to be whatever color. So for Santa hair, it's been processed to be white. For other colors, it's been reprocessed to have the whatever, like say number 4 brown or number 22 blonde that we're calling and ordering. So it's very boring in a way. It's very catalog based. So we literally go to the website and say, okay, I need a 16-inch bundle of number 22, or I need a 14-inch bundle of the white hair. So whatever characteristics were true about it before have been erased completely, which is sort of weird. It's like it's all just been aggregated into these one bundles of hair. So I don't know necessarily where they're sourcing everything from in that, because we're getting the finished product from that.
Because it was always my understanding that Asian hair is more round, and our hair is more flat. But so I've heard. Okay, but anyways, how do you match a wig or beard to a performer's face, personality, or character style, especially long distance? I mean, you talked a little bit about the plastic, but I don't know if there's anything more.
Well, the plastic tracing gives us the shape and the like I said, the literal geography of their head, if you will. So that lets us make the thing fit them. But then some of the other things that you just mentioned are a little more nuanced. Those are less technical and more sort of going, okay, we've looked at this person's, they sent us pictures of their face, or we've met them in real life. We've seen the shape of their face. We've looked at proportions. They've told us maybe how tall they are. They've shown us what their Santa suit looks like, because that can also play into it. You know, do they have a big fur collar, or do they have a simpler coat? So we've kind of trying to get as much information as we can, so that as we're working on the piece, we're actually working on it with them in mind specifically. And so somebody with a smaller face, we're probably going to adjust where we put the hairline of their beard just a little bit so it doesn't overwhelm them. You know, we don't want the proportions to be like, oh, here's, you know, a giant beard and just 2 eyes or something. You know, we want everything to look very balanced, and very, you know, we want it to look at home on the person. You know, so that's a big component of it, is sort of gauging those little things. But then on a more harder to quantify level, there's the personality, and there is what makes it individual to the specific person getting it. And that's something that we try to get from them by talking to them, you know, by exchanging emails with them, by looking at pictures of other things they've done, you know, other looks they've worn before, because we want to understand as much as we can how they see their Santa portrayal or their character or whatever the project is. You know, we're trying to understand, like, what does this mean to them, so that we can try to bring that as much as possible into the finished piece. And sometimes, you know, that is just, they'll say, you know, it's really important to me that it has a slight streak of white right here, and so we'll put that in. So sometimes it's like very, you know, very tangible, and sometimes it's a little bit just more of an instinct and kind of a whimsy thing that we might do with the styling, where we might just look at that and go, let's fluff the curls up just here a little bit more. I think that would work really well on this person, and, you know, or something like that. So we try to make sure that even if they're picking something out of the style guide that is one of our classic looks, that it still is personalized to them too. You know, we're not just going, here's your thing, thank you. You know, we're trying to make sure it's theirs.
Very nice.
You know, Spangle, 2 little beady eyes and a ball of fur makes me think of Cousin It.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what came to mind when she mentioned that. Okay, Heather, what are the most common mistakes Santas make when choosing or even caring for their wigs and beards?
Well, I don't think there's any mistakes when it comes to choosing. And that's actually what a lot of people will ask. They'll come and say, well, I don't know which tier I should get. I don't know which style I should get. And while I'm always happy to answer questions and talk with them, kind of try to understand what their vision of Santa is for themselves, the first thing I always say to them is that there's not a right or wrong choice. If there were wrong choices, we wouldn't offer them. So we try to make sure there's not a wrong way to do this. The only wrong way would be to not honor what's in your heart and in your like mind about this, and to try to do what you think somebody else should, it thinks you should do. I mean, that to me would be the only mistake making there, is to try to please somebody else's idea of what Santa is, what your Santa is. So I would say that's the first thing, is that there's no mistakes. And a lot of times too, people will say, well, I don't know what style. It's like, well, you know what? These are human hair. We can restyle them. So if you get the style and you're like, you know what, this didn't work this year. Too curly or not curly enough. We can make some adjustments for you in the future. It's not set in stone. We can't make the pieces longer. That's the one thing we can't do. But everything else, we can make adjustments. And so I try to make sure people understand that, like, that it feels really serious, and it is serious, but it's not locked in stone. It's not permanent. So that's a big thing. Now, when it comes to care and handling, that is where, unfortunately, sometimes people do not maybe know what they should be doing with pieces, or make choices, or they get advice that's not ideal, maybe from other places. The biggest thing we see is people cut the lace margin on their pieces too close, thinking that will hide it more. So the pieces have, we tie those hairs into this very fine transparent mesh here, and that hugs the curve of the head or the face here. And I absolutely understand why someone looks at that and thinks, well, that's really obvious. Like, look at that thing. That's so out there. I'm going to cut it off. I get it. But the problem is, when you cut it too short, what ends up happening is that instead of hugging the curve of the head right here and wanting to stay in place, suddenly you've got this line here, and it's actually sticking up away from your skin. And so suddenly you've made kind of a more hard line up there that doesn't disappear. So it's kind of like, it's counterintuitive. But if you leave that in place, it actually is easier to hide that line. And so that's one thing that happens, unfortunately. And we try to give a lot of advice and a lot of information to our Santas, so they know what they should be doing, what they shouldn't be doing. But lace trimming is a big one. The other one would be not cleaning the pieces after each wearing. Whether you use glue or tape to keep the pieces in place, you've got to clean it off after each time you use it. If you leave that stuff to build up, it's just harder to deal with in the future. It does not get any easier from sitting around, but also sitting there long enough, it can start to damage the hair and lace. And after a certain point, we can't even get it out when we try to do it for our Santa Care program. Someone sends something to us where the glue is just built up in it, and we've had to tell people like we've done everything we can. Unfortunately, like there's no getting through this layer of built up glue and makeup that's on here now. So those are probably the biggest things. Most other stuff, it's simple maintenance. It's truly like a minute of prevention is worth hours of trying to undo something later. And again, we do try to make sure people have that information. Make sure you run a comb through it occasionally so you don't get hat head on it. So the underneath side of your hair and beard doesn't get tangled. But really, the big thing is if you clean it after each wearing, it's going to be in good shape and it's going to last you for a long time. But those would be my top two based on the stuff we get in for Santa Care every year.
And I'm guessing when you're talking about cleaning it after each wearing, you're talking about where the glue and the tape is, not necessarily cleaning the whole.
Not cleaning the hair, no, not shampooing or anything like that, but just like I said, if you put your beard on and you use a little bit of tape or glue here, as soon as it comes off your face, as soon as you realistically can, you want to get that glue or that tape right back off of it after every single wearing, if at all possible. If you get makeup on it or anything else on it, you want to get that off the hair as quickly as possible or off the lace, just because those things can damage the hair and the lace if they just sit on there for weeks or worse, or months after the season. Sometimes, people will send us in something in January for Santa Care, and it's just, excuse me, it's covered with what's clearly like 6 weeks of glue and makeup on the lace, and it's just, it's hard to clean it off, and it's never quite the same afterwards with that level of buildup. And so that's it. But I don't mean like shampooing it every time or anything like that. No, they don't need that level of cleaning between wears.
Heather, do y'all talk to the client about along that lace line that you were talking about, using the little additional hairs and plugs to help?
We do not. We don't recommend it as a general thing. I know it's an old technique, and I learned it in stage makeup class back in 1997. So that was a thing we learned, and it's a useful technique. But we don't recommend it with our products because it's really easy to end up going a little heavy with that glue and those hairs and getting them into that edge up here, and missing the lace or missing your own skin, and then suddenly you've got glue building up in the actual knots that we've tied in that lace. And it's hard to see that when you're putting stuff on up there. You don't actually realize that's happened, and that can really build up in those knots. And sometimes too, like the remover you use to take it off your skin can dissolve the glue, but it dissolves it just enough that it runs down into the beard underneath it, maybe, or something like that. And you end up actually putting liquid glue down into those knots and things, and you may not even realize you've done it. Like you can't always see it immediately, but it builds up in there. And then that can be really damaging because it can actually start to make the hair weaken, and then the knots can start to work loose. And so that can be a real issue as well. So for that reason, we do not recommend it, although I understand the appeal of the idea very much. But it's something that can cause some problems with a lace edge. So we don't recommend it.
I'm sure when you get some of those beards sent to you and you see all that glue, you're like, how and why?
There've been a couple where I've wondered how they could comfortably have been wearing it by the end of the season with it, just because it seems like it would have just been very difficult to actually get it on and get it to hug the face at all anymore at that point, or to stay on. It just
it's a little crunchy or something.
Yeah, sometimes it does because the glues, they just keep building up, and it's like any other adhesive. You just keep adding adhesive to a surface, you just keep getting more glue and more glue on top of it. Yeah.
Okay, very good. So okay, go ahead, Bob.
I was just going to say we got a few comments from Liz Rouge. We'll go ahead and continue here. We'll pick those up here.
Yeah. So how has the Claus community influenced the work you're doing over the years?
Well, we wouldn't have work to do if it wasn't for the community, which has actually been so great. From the very first pieces that we built in 2008, everybody was giving us immediate feedback and suggestions so that I was able to take those things and go and refine the product. It's like, we start out and go, okay, this is what I think this should look like. Let's try it out. But, until you actually have people using it and wearing it and working with it, it's all theoretical up to that point. And so right from the beginning, Santas have been great about saying, this works great, or this doesn't work as great, or, is it possible to address this concern? Could we started putting an elastic strap on all of our beards in response to people saying, I'm gluing this on, but it would be so much easier if there was some kind of strap over this. It's like, okay, we can put a strap on these. That's great. Like, that's not a problem at all. So now that's pretty much the default thing we do unless someone says they don't want one, for example. So there's little things like that. There's functional things right there where it's like, okay, this has helped us make a better product over the years. And then there's also trends like when the Christmas Chronicles movies came out. It was funny because right at first, nobody was asking for the Kurt Russell inspired wig and beard. No, they're like for a full year, nobody, not a single email about it. And then it was like all of a sudden people were like, well, that's kind of cool. Maybe I do kind of want that different look. Like, can you guys make that? And so we started offering that eventually, a Christmas Chronicles inspired piece. But it was something that there was nobody was talking about it or interested in it at first. So there was no reason on our side to say, oh, we want to do this. Like here, there's a market for this. But then people started saying, oh, that's kind of neat. I kind of like his curly silver beard. Can you guys do one of those? And now it's probably the second most popular style that we do after 7, 8 years later. So those kinds of trends like kind of come into play, and then they become sort of mainstream, I feel like, in the Claus community, and then people start asking for that or asking for the coat or the boots or other details like that. So there's definitely a trend and ebb and flow. Like when we first started doing pieces, I feel like everybody was very much wanted the biggest beards possible. That was very high priority, big beards. And now, interestingly, 16 years later almost, there's sort of an interesting little resurgence of smaller, more natural scaled and shorter beards, which I think is really interesting. That there's kind of a little bit of a pendulum swing, and we have a lot more people ordering the tier 1 and smaller beards. A lot more people wanting Edmund Gwynn inspired pieces now. So it's just kind of fun how that has sort of been cyclical a little bit.
I'm kind of a naturalist. I like the white beard, not the gray or silver. Or,
It's funny you mentioned that, Spangle, because I was so conscious the first handful of years that I was had become Santa to bleach religiously every 6 weeks, and it really takes such a toll on your hair and your beard. And of course, I was younger and it was darker at the time. It's lightened up a lot since, but since Kurt Russell, I don't feel as bad about letting these dark spots come in and it getting a little dingy at times, just to protect it, so I don't have to bleach every 6 weeks. I try to space it out now, where I'm only when I'm going to an event in the Santa community will I do that, and then of course at Christmas time. Back over to you, Spangle, for the next one.
I'm doing it every week or two.
I know.
All year long, I bleach it every week or two. So hey,
Sure do.
Wow.
yeah. Okay, so what's the most challenging wig or beard you have ever created, and what made it so?
I think it's more of a category than one specific piece. But anytime that we have to make something that is a really stylized, large shape that kind of defies gravity, those are really challenging because we're trying to build something that goes on someone's head. And sometimes it still needs to technically look like it's their own hair. They want the natural hairline. They want the illusion of it. But the thing has to be like cantilevered out to here or something, or it's got, giant spikes that have to swoop up here. And those are really challenging because we're really fighting physics a lot to try to bring something to life and make it still look like it's somehow this person's hair, even though that's not what a person's hair could ever do. But also it has to have all these functional qualities, like I said, big spikes or really stylized long curls. And those are really cool. And we really like when we're done with them, it's like, oh, this is so neat. Like but while we're doing them, it's always sort of, okay, is this going to work? Are we going to pull this off? Because we've got to figure out how to make this, 6 pounds of hair support itself somehow here and like not move even when someone's moving around in it. And which kind of goes back to when I said about, theater, you're out there trying to solve new problems all the time. And so we still get some of those where we're going, okay, we're going to take on this project, but we're not totally sure how we're going to actually solve the problems yet, but we'll figure it out. We know we'll figure it out, but we don't know how we're going to get there. So I think those are the tricky ones where there's no roadmap, there's nothing to go on. You have to just start with nothing and start working and decide you're not going to quit until you figure out how to make the hair stand up or do whatever it needs to do.
In line with the thought of theatrical work, how do you balance historical accuracy, performer comfort, and visual realism?
Oh, that's a good question. And that can be really tough, especially long distance. When I was working in theater and I would see the pieces out on stage and get a chance to troubleshoot them, it was easier to tweak those sorts of things. You were working in real time and getting real time feedback. With historical accuracy, one of the first questions in those cases that I'll ask is, is your priority historical realism, authentic, absolutely as close as possible, or is it something that looks historical, but we're acknowledging that this is happening in the modern world, and this needs to be functional and something that you can wear to events, and that is there's a little give and take there. And so I usually ask the client, like, where's your priority between these things? And there's no wrong answer, but it's just, if I want to know where they are with this, if going, yep, I need it to be as absolutely detailed and accurate as it possibly can be, well researched, everything is as documented as possible, the hairstyle based on primary sources, and no creative license in there, and we do those. And sometimes somebody will say, well, I want it to, look like it's from the 18th century, but it doesn't have to actually pass an inspection or anything. I don't need to be able to cite my sources for it. So I defer to the client there. Like, they'll tell us what the priority is on that. When it comes to, the comfort of what they're wearing and functional, again, some of that I ask them, depending on what they're telling me and how they're using it. We will sort of hear that and say, okay, this person just told us that they're going to wear this wig primarily for outdoor reenactment events. So that means they're not going to have access to easy ways to refresh the style or be caring for this, on the fly over the course of, say, a weekend. So we need to make sure that we're giving them a style that is what they want, but also is going to hold up in the conditions they're going to be working in until they can get home and do some tweaks and some maintenance if they need to. Or if someone says, well, I want a wig that looks historical, but I want to be able to wear it in the morning and have it dressed for a daytime look, but then I'm going to a ball that night and I'm only going to have a few minutes and I just want to add some hair pieces to it to make it look like it's now evening hair. So in that case, we would sort of figure out, okay, we're basically making them some hair pieces that they can stick on to the wig. So they go from day to evening in 20 minutes in their tent instead of trying to, completely restyle a wig. So again, it's sort of the client's needs and preferences sort of drive that for it. And sometimes we have to say, we can't do both. You have to, there's a line in there somewhere where function or preference and authenticity, and this is true with our cosplay projects or our tribute artists too sometimes, chasing likeness or screen accuracy, there does sometimes become an intersection of, okay, well, which is it going to be? Are we going to try to be as screen accurate as possible, because that's going to maybe take away some of the practicalities over here, so it's truly a matter of where's that line for them, and what do they want, and what are they willing to do if they want that screen accurate look. How much are they willing to spend in terms of time, preparing and taking care of it and getting ready to go do a convention or a historical reenactment or anything like that. So it's always kind of a conversation with the client, and we just try to strike that balance for them and meet them where they want it to be. But sometimes it does mean having to say, I'm sorry, but all those things can't exist simultaneously. You have to pick one.
Let me ask you this, talking about historical accuracy and authenticity and stuff, is there ever, and I don't even know if this is a real question, is there ever like a copyright thing? Like, you can't do this person's hair because...
Well, the way we sort of look at it is we're never making a Gandalf wig and beard. We don't, that's a character. There's trademarking and licensing, I'm sure, that go in for that. But if someone says, I really want to cosplay as Gandalf the Grey, we are saying, okay, we can make a wig and a beard for you, that ultimately, because we're making them for you, and we're making them, and they're new creations, they're ultimately unique pieces. They are inspired by this look that this character wore, or a piece of art, or whatever the source is, but ultimately we're making a new thing. We're not trying to just say, okay, we're literally going to go white strand, gray strand. So, we try to make sure we are not actively going, hey, let's, and it would be hard to do that. It would be very difficult to truly copy something down to that level. I think would be a challenge that I think would be very difficult to pull off. But we ultimately, that's how we kind of look at it, is we're making something that is inspired by a character or a source, rather than trying to actually claim that it is a replica of that thing.
Okay. And so, what do you hope that every Santa or Mrs. Claus feels when they put on one of your pieces?
I hope that they put it on and they immediately forget that they're wearing it. That is actually my hope. And that's true of all of our clients. I hope they put the piece on and then they immediately don't think about it again until the night's over and they're taking it off. Because I don't want them to be thinking about their hair or their beard. I want them to be focused on whatever it is they're going to go do. You know, if it's Santa, I want them focused on the families or the event or the kids. You know, I don't want our Santas thinking about their beard while they're in those moments. I don't want them worrying about their pieces. I just want them to put it on, and I want it to feel so comfortable and so right for them that they don't think about it. So really, that's it. I want them to be really happy, and then I want them to not think about it again. It's like, yes, this is perfect, and now I'm going to go do what I need to do and not worry about this anymore.
So we're going to take a break here in just a moment, but there are quite a few comments here in the chat. I'm going to grab just a few of those before we go to break. Again, Liz has got a lot of questions. Here is one. Is there a difference between a daily worn wig versus a costume wig and how you design it?
Yes, there are some differences. And a wig for daily wear has to do a lot of really specific things and is really needs to be very specific to the individual person who's needs, who's going to wear it. And some of the construction methods are different for that. And it's actually not an area that we have a specialization in. And so for that reason, typically if someone asks about daily wear, I will sort of give them a bullet list of how our pieces work and how they are maybe limiting in day-to-day life or can be, so they understand, okay, this is, you know, there's going to be a piece of lace up here or there's going to be other things, because ultimately our pieces come out of a tradition of wigs for performance. You know, that informs, like, these are at their foundation are meant for performance and presentational situations. Even when they're very close up and very intimate, it's still usually someone in a character or some kind of costume doing something, interacting with people. And there's a removal there. There's a little bit of a distance there, even again in close situations. That's not necessarily true in someone's day-to-day life, where they really need an even greater level of discretion. And so since that is not where our specialization has been all these years, like I said, I try to give them the sort of, here's what this would be like, and if this feels like the right option for you, then we'll be happy to make this for you. But if this doesn't sound like it's going to meet your needs, then we're probably not the right company to do this project, because, you know, again, you can only specialize in so many things, and we're kind of maxed out on our performance character tradition of our pieces, where I feel like, you know, we would be doing a disservice to people trying to say that we could make them a wig that would meet their daily wear needs, if what they're wanting is not kind of what we already do.
Quick comment from Stephen A. Barron says, hi, Heather.
Hey, Stephen.
I got a couple here that are in the same category. This one was the first one. Can you wear your beard if you have a goatee? And the other one, I'm going to pull up real quick, is from Kevin Bernhardt. He says, what's the best way to wear hair on top of real hair?
Oh, those are good questions, and we get those a lot too. And the short answer is that in most cases, yes, you can wear one of our beards over facial hair of your own. Now, that is going to depend a little bit on your own facial hair. The longer, denser, darker, or thicker your own facial hair, the more challenging that's going to be to cover up with a beard. So there's, again, it's like so many things. There's a tipping point in there where we can build you a beard that will accommodate your facial hair. But if you're wanting to have, you know, a long, dark, bushy beard down to here and wear ours over it, that's going to be pretty challenging. You know, that's not going to maybe be as successful as if you trimmed or shaped it. But we have a lot of Santas who keep facial hair during the season, some of whom their facial hair is not white. So they are wearing, you know, dark or salt and pepper goatees or trimmed beards or mustaches under our beards. And the thing we always say is, you know, ideally we know about that when we're doing the build, so we can factor that in. And your whatever your facial hair is going to be during the holiday season is what you want to have when you do your tracing, so that the beard fits as closely as possible. You know, we don't want you to have your tracing taken when you've got a big beard and then you're going to shave it off, because then the beard we make is going to be too big because we built it with this extra hair in there, and vice versa. So that's usually what I tell people is, you know, the more you're comfortable trimming and kind of compacting your own facial hair, the easier your life will be when it comes to applying it. And we need to know and have the tracing be done as close as possible to that, so the fit is as good as it can be for that. And with wearing it on your head, it's even easier. There's a lot more tricks for compacting and flattening your own hair and putting a wig over it. There's a lot more room to hide your own hair under a wig than under a beard, where there's limited real estate. But in both cases, it's just about managing what's going on with your own hair or beard, trying to get it as secure as possible so it's not shifting around under either piece, and then letting us know that so we can maybe make the piece more dense if we need to, or do other little tricks to make sure it's going to be successful for you. But then it's a matter of just putting it on over it, and sometimes you'll use a little glue or tape to secure it down so it doesn't shift around, but that's true even if you don't have facial hair under it. So in some ways, the application process is not wildly different, but it's also going to depend on the individual person in question and their facial hair. But it happens all the time.
Let me ask you this. I don't get as much hair through here that as I would like to get, or it's very, very fine. Mm-hmm. Is there something that you could build something just for this?
We don't really do partial pieces. We've experimented with them years ago because people were asking for them, because we'd hear about that a lot. Oh, I've got a little bit of sparsity here, or I wish the underside of my beard was fuller. And in a perfect world, we would be able to make pieces that meet those needs. But in reality, trying to match the color and texture of hair and then make it a little piece that needs to blend in it's another one of those things that is just kind of out of our wheelhouse. And then you add in the distance factor, and that becomes even more challenging. And so we kind of just reached a point where we realized it was just not something that we could really effectively offer people. And again, you don't want to offer people something that isn't going to actually meet their needs either. So we've kind of said, this is just not something that is in our repertoire right now. So it's not something we do because it's hard to get the hairs to blend. That's really challenging. It's surprisingly, you think like, oh, it's white hair and white hair, but it's one thing to say, okay, well, the whole beard is made from this hank of white hair, but then you're trying to match somebody's actual whiskers in just a little area. That's hard.
Okay, I'm going to grab one more before we go to break. This is also from Liz Rue. She wants to know if you can name drop some of your Santas.
Oh my gosh, Spangle is one of our Santas.
was natural now.
Yeah, he's natural. He's those are his whiskers there, but
yeah.
he has custom Wig Company pieces. He's one of our earliest adopters. I mean, we've got over almost 500 different Santa clients around the world from the last 15 years. So there's a lot of them out there. I mean, I don't know, name dropping. I mean, I don't really know who to name drop in that context, because I don't know. I'm not sure what you're looking for with that. There's a lot of them. Some of them are famous, some of them are infamous, some of them are not. I don't know, but there's a lot of them. And we love all of them. They're great.
Very good. All right, stick around. We're going to take a short break. We're going to run a 90-second commercial, and we'll be back right on the other side with more with Heather.
Oh, hello there. Yes, of course, it's me, Santa Claus. Now, you may not believe this, but one of the questions I get asked the most is, well, not how do I do it all in one night? No, but where do I get all my things from? Yes, now, what am I talking about? Well, I'm talking about the finest things I have. My glorious gloves, all my knickknacks and trinkets and things. Yes, all the giveaways. Yes, for me to give to the children before the main event. Yes, if I see them in the streets, if they come and see me, I like to have something in my pocket I can treat them with. Yes, and there's one special place where I can find all these magical goods. And that is, of course, stuffforsanta.com. You should head there now and see what magical gifts you can find. Mrs. Claus, have you got my ice pad? Yes, log me on, I'm going to have a look. I shall see you there. Stuffforsanta.com. Merry Christmas.
All right, welcome back to with our featured guest, Heather Fleming. and we're going to continue where we left off. Next, we want to know how many pieces does Custom Wig Company build in a year?
Oh, it depends a little bit on the year, but we average anywhere between 90 and 140 pieces. And by pieces in that context, either a full wig or a beard. That's not counting mustaches and eyebrows and the smalls, as we call those pieces. I don't know that I've counted the mustaches separately before. That would certainly add to that a lot. So it depends. Like I said, it depends on the year. Really, our big limit most of the time is just having enough artisans to build. That's the thing, because learning how to build wigs is a time-consuming process. It's not something people learn quickly. It's something they have to refine and practice. And so when we train apprentices, it takes them a year or two to really get kind of up to speed fully and to be able to be cranking pieces out. So we often find that the limitation is elves to work in the workshop more so than lack of interest from people wanting to order. But
Very good, Spangle.
Yeah, okay. So do the beards stay on if a child pulls on them, or does that depend on how they're applied? Now, I can tell you when I applied mine, I probably went way overboard with tape. Because when I had to take mine off, I literally had to peel it to get it off because I put so much tape on it because I had this fear.
yeah,
But
of
I've had
course.
children grab it and pull up on it, and
Oh yeah, no, and I get asked that question a lot too because I understand it. I mean, that's kind of one of those iconic things of is Santa, is your beard real kind of thing, and we don't want the beard to come off. I mean, that would be horrifying for everybody. So what I will say to people when they ask that is the first thing is if your beard has an elastic strap, and that is the default that we do. It's not the only option, but then it's not ever going to come off completely because that elastic goes over the head and it's going to actually hold it on to your face. So even if someone pulls, it can't go very far. So you kind of got some insurance there. Or if, let's say it's not even a pulling thing, it's hot, you're sweating, glue's loosening up, that elastic is going to mean that it's not going to come off completely. Even if it were to loosen up a little here, you're still going to have the beard on. So that's always the first thing I suggest is like, if that's a concern, go with the elastic because it's your insurance. The other thing is using glue and tape to secure the beard to your skin around here so that if anything comes in contact with it, it's actually attached here. So, and you can kind of work with that. If the kid goes to pull, you can lean into it just like you would if it was your grown whiskers. And at the end of the day, those combo things are usually enough to keep the thing on the face, even if someone does tug on it. But I always try to encourage people, try not to let them be pulling on it anymore if that happens, because while it might not come off your face, it's not great for the piece to have, to be tugged on constantly. The hairs can eventually start to weaken from that kind of, over and over again. It can kind of take a toll on the pieces potentially, or tear the lace, depending, that's that force pulling the hair in that the lace can be a little delicate. So my general advice is to try to limit that, but if it happens, the tape and the elastic usually do most of the work of actually making sure it's not going to come off in their hand.
yeah, and and really, what is in these parents' minds, anyways? Because as the clown, they're getting the children are getting the picture with you, and the parents say, "Step on his shoe,"
Oh,
then with Santa, they're getting their picture with Santa, and the parents are yelling, "Pull his beard!" you know, come on, parents.
yeah.
Yeah, I was a number of years ago. I was watching a parade, a well-known parade in the U.S. here, and they're waiting for Santa to come down on the float, and the TV station is there, and there's always that spot where the TV cameras are, and just as they get there, the float stops. Santa turns and starts looking into the camera, and he's ho ho hoing and saying a few things, and his mustache goes, "Tink,"
Oh.
and he reaches up to to try to step it back on. You can see him start doing this, and the camera cuts away and goes to the anchors at the anchor desk, and they speak for a minute. They cut back to Santa. He starts again, and it falls down again.
Oh no.
I think I laughed harder that day. I felt so bad for the Santa.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's nightmare territory. Oh no.
Well, I've seen the repelling Santas in the mall, and they're they got just the box beard, and it's caught in the things going down. Now, but we've kind of already asked this question or talked about this, that somehow Bob puts it in the script, so I must ask you. You only make pieces for Santa.
No, we do not. And I've mentioned a few of the other things casually in this. No, our primary areas with Santas and Mrs. Claus, but then also tribute artists, first-person interpreters, so people who maybe do a portrayal of Ben Franklin or George Washington. Those are two big popular projects for us, especially this year. Ben Franklin's been very popular. So that kind of first person, we call those famous figure wigs, when it's based on a real life famous figure, and we're kind of giving them Ben Franklin's hair or George Washington's hair. And then cosplay, so that tends to be people doing characters from film or TV or comics that they're replicating, you know, kind of. Some people are doing pretty literal interpretations of that. Some people are just doing completely original creations of that because they like the character. Kind of runs everywhere in between that, and so a lot of those people will reach out to us and say, you know, I'm going to be doing a gray wizard. I need a gray wizard wig and beard, you know, like long and, you know, gray and the mustache, and we'll make those pieces. So, and we also do wigs for dolls and puppets. That's our other kind of niche area. So anybody that's got a ventriloquist figure or, you know, dolls down to a certain size. We don't have heads that are smaller than about 14 inches. So anything smaller than that gets a little bit challenging because we have to actually fabricate the head to work on. But we have done that a few times. We've been able to figure that out. So those are our primary areas of specialization.
You could make me a wig because I've been called a dummy a time or two.
Well, it's not very nice, but yes, we could make you a wig.
Now, I was going to give her, I don't know, I lost that question. I must have went on a vacation.
Okay. So Spangle had asked earlier, what was the most challenging wig or beard you had ever made? What's the most unusual wig or beard you've ever made?
Well, we made a tiny wig, and this was kind of an exception where I said, you know, it's harder for us to make smaller than a 14-inch. And somebody had needed a tiny 18th century, so white, puffy, Q style wig for a tiny little doll about so big in a little diorama. And because it was just basically this, you know, kind of tall, white, powdery wig, we were actually able to do it because we didn't have to do the structured foundation and try to tie the hair into it. So we literally fabricated the head by taking, they sent us a tiny little tracing, and it was truly like this big, the little head tracing. And we just stuffed cotton into that and then put a straw into it so that it had something to hold on to. So we had this little lollipop-sized, basically, head. And we made this little puff of hair for it. And it was very cute, but it was one that we absolutely had no idea how we were going to do it until we got in there. But, you know, it's funny because you think it was complicated because it was tiny, which is like the opposite of some of the things I was mentioning earlier that are like big and elaborate and gravity-defying. It was actually like, how do we make a little tiny wig? And it was so cute. It was one of the cutest things we've ever made. And we had to use little itty bitty tiny perm rods to set the curls on the sides of it. Like just we could barely fit them in there because there was so little room to work. But it was so cute. So sometimes it's things like that where we have to solve a problem where, again, it's like there's no template. It's not something we've done before. And we have to really like figure it out from scratch and really go, okay, how do we bring this into existence? Because it's different than anything we've done before. And so those are like both the most challenging and the most fun and complicated things that we do. But the little bitty wig was pretty fun.
I'm just thinking that little bitty wig, I'm glad that wasn't a project you were working on when I was there, because I might have thought it was a cake pop and had
it did look like a cake pop, actually. It really did. It was like just this, we still have the little head. We keep it because it's just, you know, it's so fun. But it looks like a cake pop. Like it does not look like something but you can see they drew the little hairline on it. I mean, it's just like a little, like it's like Barbie head size. It's tiny. But, you know, it's because of what it was, we were able to do it. And so, yeah, but that was super unique and super small but complex. We had to do a lot of brainstorming on that.
How long does a wig last?
If you take good care of it, it will last for years and years. Eventually, given enough time, the foundation materials may start to degrade. The hair will start to dry out. I mean, it's, you know, but we have guys who are still using pieces that we made in 2010, 2011. I mean, they're still like, we get them back for Santa Care every year. They're still in regular use. And maybe even older than that, but those are the ones I'm thinking of off the top of my head that have come back recently for Santa Care that I know are still out there. And the thing is, if it's cared for well and handled carefully, The wigs and beards, at least, can be quite durable. Now, mustaches and eyebrows, the smaller surface area, it means that they are much more delicate. They're just on lace. There's nothing reinforcing it. It's very thin. So those tend to wear out more quickly, even with absolutely impeccable handling, just because there's just less room to spread the wear and tear of gluing it on, pulling it off, gluing it on, pulling it off, cleaning it. Those are not as durable. But even then, with good care, those can last for years. It's just they're not going to have the same lifespan as a wig or a beard. But really, like a little bit of maintenance on those pieces, and truly they will last. They will last a very long time.
So, how do you recommend storing and caring for them, and how is the best way to transport them around?
Storage, I always say that it should ideally, and we're always going to talk in ideals, and real life isn't always ideal, but we start there, and then people can modify based on their situations. Your wig and your beard are going to be pinned onto a canvas block that's close to the size of your head. And that way, the foundation that we tailored to fit you is supported on a shape that's pretty close to your size and shape. The hair has something to support it. The knots aren't getting flattened and mangled. Everything is just stabilized and supported. Then if it's a longer style, a wig or beard, a hairnet draped around it to cradle it so that the hair is not just hanging there and the weight isn't just pulling down on it, makes a big difference in keeping the style intact and also just supporting it. So again, those little tiny knots, each one of those is a knot. If they're just hanging there, that's weight slowly pulling on them, and over enough time, that's just gravity working on a knot. And while they don't come untied easily, why not support it and take that out of the equation completely? So that's the sort of ideal thing. On a head that's the right size, supported with hair nets, then stored someplace. It doesn't need to be like locked up in a special vault or anything. It just needs to be put away where it's not sitting out in direct sunlight or in a really high humidity environment, or or someplace with crazy temperature fluctuations. So don't put it in your uninsulated attic. Don't store it in your moldy basement. Don't put it in the window that gets 10 hours of sun every day. I mean, it's just those things, like put it on a shelf in a closet. Maybe loosely cover it with. People use pillowcases sometimes, even if they're, when they're done for the year with it and they just need to store it till next Christmas. They'll even cover it just loosely, just keep the dust off of it, to keep it from getting anything on it like that. You don't want to seal it up in something. You do want it to have some airflow. So, like, I wouldn't say, put it in a tote and close it up and seal it and put it away. Like, no, like you want it to have the ability to breathe a little bit. But really, as long as it's not in any of those conditions, that's fine. The big thing is just, again, getting it on the blocks and getting it supported, so that's ideal.
Don't put it between the pages of the yellow pages.
Yeah. Don't put it there. Don't put it in your pocket when you're done. Don't let your dogs and cats play with it.
Don't store it in the freezer.
Yeah. I mean, the freezer would probably be better than some of those, but.
All right, Heather, let's jump into the chat and catch some of these comments and questions that we have. Elizabeth, like I said, has quite a few. Here's another one. What has been your most expensive piece that you've ever created?
Oh, good question. And that would almost completely, without exception, it would be some of our historical wigs. And it's because of the sheer amount of hair in them, especially like big 18th century styles. They need a lot of hair, and the hair needs to be very long in order to do those big, tall pompadours. And because of that, just right there, like from the get-go, that immediately adds substantially to the cost right there, by hundreds or even a couple $1,000s, depending on exactly what the hair is and what it needs to do. So like that category of that type of wig is easily the most expensive, and like I said, can be several $1,000s depending on the style, depending on the hair the client wants, how long it needs to be. And that's just getting the materials cost. That's not even factoring labor into that. But that's definitely a big component. Now, generally speaking, labor in most cases is actually the thing that drives the cost of our pieces because of how labor intensive the build is on them. But when you get into projects like that where it's both, it's all those hours of labor and then a lot of materials, that really starts to become, like I said, those can be several $1,000s depending on the style of them. And how much hair goes into them, and they really do become sort of works of art because they're large and they're pretty and they take a lot of materials. So usually blonde hair is more expensive than other colors too, depending on what it is. So that can also affect the cost if somebody's doing it for like a platinum blonde. Just interestingly.
Jim Barrett said Heather is the best. Great experience working with her to become Santa.
Oh, hi Jim. How are you? Good to hear from y'all. So many people in the chat. That's nice.
Trying to.
Charchand or something says, I lost my hair to chemo, and this person really needs you.
Well, we are here. You're welcome to reach out and we can chat about your needs and see if we can make something that's going to meet your needs. We're here, and we do work with Santas who have suffered hair loss for various reasons, and we're able to put pieces together for them so that they are able to keep on being Santa.
I think you kind of answered Kim Burnett's question. Do you do extensions if they want their beard thicker?
Yeah, we've never found a really good consistent way to do it where we can be sure that the product is actually going to meet the need. That's so we don't do extensions or pieces like that. It's just trying to match the hair textures is really difficult, and then trying to make the piece functionally integrate is also, it's like two big challenges, and we just don't have the materials or the resources to make that be a good option.
Kevin Martin wants to know, he said he's glanced briefly at your page. Do you offer any kind of payment plans?
We do. We absolutely do, because we realize it's a big investment to get pieces. So at a minimum, you can break any project into 2, 3, or 4 installments. We do offer a few other options as well that are on the payment plan page, just to spread it out up to 12 months. That's as far out as we go typically. But no, we try to work with people as much as possible on that, because we realize, again, it's an investment. We want to make people be able to do that and do it in a way that is comfortable for them.
And Elizabeth Roos says, can I give you a photo of my desired wig style and for my Mrs. Claus wig? She really wants it to be more of a natural look.
Oh, yeah, we love that for Mrs. Claus, especially because one of the challenges with Mrs. Claus, and also one of the opportunities, is the sky is the limit when it comes to styles for Mrs. Claus. It could be anything. I mean, there's no like, oh, it can only be this updo or it can only be this bob. I mean, truly, we've had all kinds of style options come up where exactly what you just said. Someone comes to us and says, this is what I want my Mrs. Claus wig to look like. And they give us a picture, and the character is not a Mrs. Claus or even it's like Meemaw from Young Sheldon actually is a person whose hair we've had multiple Mrs. Clauses reference because they love the hairstyle and they see it and they go, that would be such a great Mrs. Claus style. And so we have done that kind of thing for multiple Mrs. Clauses. So yeah, actually that would be the sort of the ideal way. Like we do have a few Mrs. Claus styles on our page as a starting point. But I always tell our Mrs. Clauses, no, just do not feel like you have to pick something from here. Go find any hairstyle that you like. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be white or gray. You can bring me a hairstyle that's not those. We'll make it the color you want it, but like show me the silhouette, the look, the style, the details, or 3 or 4 styles. Like, oh, I really like the way the front is done on this one, but I love the way the updo is here. I love how this one has curls. Whatever the thing is, bring those to me, and we will combine those together and come up with what you're looking for. Because at the end of the day, like we're not going to just take those and go, okay, it's literally just this, and we're going to just replicate what's on this picture. It's like we're going to ultimately take all that and integrate it into something that's for you specifically, and that kind of meets your feelings and needs for this. So, but that's a great way to do it. I love it when people bring us a picture and say, I love this. Can I have something like this? That's great.
Bob, on this next one, it's not only the lace. I think it's life too. Okay. On this next question, go ahead, Bob.
I was going to say this one here is for you, Spangle.
Oh.
So Cunningham wants to know how in the world do you bleach every 2 weeks and still have a beard? That sounds brutal.
I do it. Yeah.
He does do it. He does do it.
Yeah. Hey, anyways, Liz Rue, she says the lace part confuses her so much, but we all know Liz, and I think it's life too.
Oh. Yeah, the lace is confusing for a lot of people when they're first sort of considering it because it's a new variable for most people, and it's a new twist, and it's something you do need to sort of be comfortable with the idea of. Yep, there's going to be this little margin of transparent lace right here that's going to follow the shape of your forehead, and some people they don't like that. And that's okay. Like they either choose a style where the hair can cover it, so there's bangs or something, or they choose a wig that just doesn't have a lace front. I mean, it's not the be all and end all. But with our pieces, they do come with the lace front. And so I like to make sure people realize that that's what's going to be happening, and that they feel like that's going to work for them, and that they know how to put it on, how to care for it, how to clean it. Because I don't want us to make a piece for somebody and they get it and go, oh, this is not what I thought this was going to be at all. Like this is. strange and confusing and I don't feel comfortable in it and it's not meeting my needs. At the end of the day, we don't want that. So I want people to understand this is how this works and what you're getting and what you'll need to do to be successful with it. And I want them to make the choice that's right for them. So if anybody has questions about that kind of thing, like how do I work with the lace? What does the lace look like when I'm actually wearing it? What do I need to do for it? Like, you can reach out anytime to me and we can set up a call or a chat, or you can come to the studio, or if I'm at an event, we can talk there and we can go over all that and I can explain it in a little more detail, because it's one of those things that, sometimes if I can show an example or some things like that, it's a lot easier to sort of start to see how it comes together and works and how successful it can be, and also then what the limitations are too. It's sort of the whole picture.
Very good.
All right. Now, Liz was asking about dropping some names. Dr. Bruce, Santa Bruce Guerin, or Dr. Bruce Kotovich. How many square inches of hand knotting can the artisan do in a day?
Well, I will say Santa Bruce is one of our Santas. So,
Yes.
so there you go. I'll name drop him since he's here in the chat. How many square inches of hand knotting can the artisans do in a day? I feel like I'm trying to solve a math problem when you say, like, how many 2 trains leave Detroit and what? I don't know that I have an answer to that, to be honest with you. I've never, maybe I should start tracking them so I can see what they're doing in a day. We don't really look at it on a square inch basis, although again, now I am kind of fascinated to go, okay, what if I time all of them and see who's the fastest, and we make it a company contest. But, what we are looking for is, generally speaking, we are looking for an average time for a wig build, so that when we're planning the schedule, we know, okay, our builders are going to probably be able to build this wig in, again, the 40 to 60 hour, whatever it is. Like, we're going to go, okay, we know it's a Santa wig, so we're expecting it'll take this much time. And most of our builders are going to be within that range. So we know, and that's mostly about, again, being able to plan the schedule, because, right now we're booked out through October. So we have to be able to have a pretty good idea of how long each project is going to take, or at least how long we think it's going to take, especially with new stuff. We never quite know for sure. With those, Santa wigs, we have a pretty good idea at this point how long they're going to take. But projects we haven't done before, we don't know. So we have to kind of work off of estimates. But, we kind of track it. So we track it on sort of a week by week basis. How many days, or, can they build a wig in a week or two, So we're kind of tracking out those numbers to make sure we're staying on schedule. And it's more like that.
Let's flip that question around a little bit. Do you have a rough idea how, in basically the normal Santa set, maybe, how many square inches are in the whole beard?
I don't actually. See, that's interesting. Because we're not thinking about it on a square inch level, but like I said, I kind of want to go measure it, how fast people do it. But with beards especially, it depends on the face. Face shapes are so different that a beard from, one person to another might be a lot bigger. Like, there's a lot more square footage there, square inches there, even more so than a wig. So that's interesting too, of, how much there'd be so many variables there for the individual person too in that. It's an interesting idea. Like, I may have to start marking out some inches on pieces and just timing people and just seeing, so I have some answers, just so when I come on this podcast again, I can report back and say, okay, we figured it out.
Yeah, Kevin Martin's, maybe contacting you because he says he's going to look more into getting a set, because he has lost some jobs because he wasn't a real bearded Santa. And I know when I wore your sets, and I never told people I was a real bearded Santa, but I would show them. They'd ask me, "Are you a real bearded Santa?" I said, "No, but here, let me send you a photo of me."
Right.
And I personally never had anybody say, "No, we want a real bearded Santa," after they seen my look that you created for me.
And I can tell you, Kevin, if it's applied correctly, it is really hard to tell. I mean, you have to know what you're really. You have to get in there and inspect it to find out.
And that's the idea. Like I said, we don't want anybody paying attention to that when Santas are out working. Like, our work is not what that's about. We want our work to disappear. It shouldn't be something anybody's looking at or paying attention to. It should just be part of Santa. So that's very important that it is as discreet as it can be for that reason.
Yeah, I was doing a photo shoot for Walmart for the Bentonville Walmart Museum. And I had a guy come up to me, "I'm wearing your set." And he's like, "Oh, yeah, I played Santa too, but I didn't have a real beard like you." And I mean, we're nose to nose talking to each other. And,
Oh, I love that. I love to hear that. Because, again, that's the idea. That's the idea. I don't ever want someone to be like, Santa, your beard lace looks really nice. Like, I don't, that's not our goal. We're not trying to. I used to say when I worked in theater, if someone came and saw a show that I designed wigs for, if they said, oh, the wigs look so good afterward, I would feel like I had failed because they shouldn't have been able to tell there were wigs. They should have, at least while they were watching it, they might have known intellectually, oh, there's a wig designer, there must be wigs in the show. But they shouldn't have been able to actually tell that while they were watching it. So if someone said, "Oh, I loved so and so character's wig," I was like, "Oh, I've not done my job well then because you shouldn't have been able to see a wig to like it. Like it should have just been part of the thing." Now, sometimes it's one of those cases where somebody knows that's not the actor's hair because they know the actor in real life. But generally speaking, and I still feel that way. It's like, no, if we have done our job well, no one knows we've done anything. That's the thing. Like when we're doing this.
When that movie Abraham came out, or whatever it was, Lincoln, or whatever that was, remember when they had all the people? I don't know if I enjoyed the movie as much as I should have because I was so in tune trying to see their beards.
Trying to look for the lace and crack
Yeah,
the
I was
code.
trying to. Yeah,
Les wants to know what is your next event that you will be vendor at, Heather?
Right now, it is actually the Santa family reunion in Gatlinburg next May, just about a year from now. That is the current next thing up on our schedule.
well,
Which we
maybe
are
you
very
should come
excited
to
for.
Branson.
Maybe we will. Let me know when your dates are. I'll see if we can make it work.
It's in July, and I might have just had a spot open up.
Oh, well, let me know. I'll take a look and see if it's something we can make. It'd be fun too. But yeah, we'll definitely be at the Santa family reunion next year.
And Liz is the one that runs the Santa
She
family.
she is, and she does a wonderful job.
That's why she had that up there. She
Yeah,
wanted
no,
you to-
that was good. I appreciated that.
That's why I was laughing. Okay, so don't forget we got Riddle Me This, the Cherry Hill riddle here coming up. But right now, let's go ahead and say thank you to some of our contributors to the TNL family.
Ho, 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 ho!
Shop Thermo Apparel. They're wonderful. They're fantastic. And for the coolest of cool Santas or Easter bunnies, remember Thermo Apparel.
Don't just be cool as an attitude. Keep cool, literally.
Thermo Apparel! Be cool! Ho, 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 ho!
Thank you to Larry Talbot at King Rest Partners, Joey and Priscilla Sanchez at Caboose, and of course Julie and her husband over at Thermo Apparel. All right, now we're going to reveal tonight's trivia answers. This is the SchoolOfSantas.com, StuffForSanta.com trivia. Which animals live at both poles? And the answer to that was E. None of them. Surprise, right? Do we have a winner?
Yes, Gary Lindner.
Gary Linder gets that one. Good job, Gary. Fantastic. All right, which animal has the thickest fur? Spangle says Santa Claus. Actually, it is a sea otter. And the winner?
That was, let me see if I can pronounce this. Chartron24 on YouTube.
There you go. Charlton24 on YouTube. Fantastic. Each of you get your names put in a hat for the drawing for each of the schools, School of Santas and North Pole Cornerstones. All right, now's the time. We've talked about it all night long. Let's go ahead and do this. Angela's going to put this up on the screen and we will read it for you. This is Riddle Me This. Again, go over to, if you figure this out, go over to Cherry Hill's Santa Central's page, group page tomorrow, and put your answer in over there. We're not taking any answers. Your answers go over there, and they will figure out who is the winner and, again, get some swag. Here we go. Riddle me this. I'm grown yet crafted, both nature and art, a symbol of magic that sets every Santa apart. I earn every smile, though I am not what you see. Some earn me slowly, others may just wear me. Through stories and laughter, I quietly stay, a true hallmark of Christmas in my own subtle way. And Christy asked me today if I figured it out, and I told her no, I really hadn't put my mind to it. So good luck on it. I hope someone wins the hat or the shirt. Got any ideas, Spangle?
No, I don't have any ideas. And I was going to grab my phone and try to record it real quick, and I missed it.
Yeah, and that would be a great idea, guys. If you're going to play along with this, maybe do a quick screenshot with your phone if you've got it handy. If not, we will put it up. Is it up on the page or just the promo?
I think just.
Well, we'll put it up on our page on the.
Or they could just go back and watch the show again.
Or you can find it on here, correct? Or you can go over to the Cherry Hill. It'll be up over there also under Riddle Me This. So
David thinks he knows it. He just shouted it out. I hope nobody heard.
no, nobody did. All right, so we want to start closing out the show here, and we want to say thank you to Cherry Hill Program Santa Central. So let's run that real quick.
Angie's Originals, custom Christmas attire since 2015. Your all-in-one wardrobe shop. Shop at angiesoriginals.com.
Cherry Hill right now. Oh.
All right. I want to say thank you to Cherry Hill again and Angie's Original for their contributions. Michael, what's your closing thoughts?
Well, when I wore custom wig beards and mustaches all the time, I liked the fact that I was able to go in and set things up, go into my trailer, get made up, go back in and do the event, go back out and get unmade up and go in and get my stuff. And the children would tell me, Santa was just here. Santa was just here. And I'm like, really? Where? No, he's gone. and I liked that magic of seeing the children afterwards and how excited they were to tell people that they had seen Santa, but yet them not know that they were actually talking to him. That was really cool.
Right now,
Plus, I
I
also liked, at Christmas time, you and I can't go to the mall. But when I didn't have my beard, and if I had a little time, I could go to the mall and talk to the Santa. I can go there and watch him a little bit,
Exactly.
That was always a fun thing.
Yeah, and for me, living here in the Dallas, Texas area, it gets really sticky hot here in the summertime. And there's been so many times I've said to myself, Bob, why don't you cut that stuff off and call Heather Fleming and get you one you put on and take off.
Bob, I went halfway there.
Hey, you got a good jump on it, don't you? it does get hot for sure with all this stuff going on year round. All right, thank you, Heather, so much for coming on the show and sharing your expertise with us tonight. It's been a fascinating show. We've really, really enjoyed it, and you have always been one of the industry's leading in this.
There was one more question. Let's throw this at her, okay?
Okay.
Like, if a Santa wants to get a set for this year, is there like a cutoff date that he needs to get it in by?
Sooner rather than later. Right now, we are booked up into October, and it's only May now. So there's only so many slots between October and Thanksgiving, and October and Christmas, and those slots will fill up. And every year we book up earlier and earlier. It's just there's just literally only so many spaces on the schedule and so many artisans to build. So if someone is thinking about Christmas 2026, they really would want to get that order in as soon as they can, because
Tomorrow.
right now, if they ordered, they're going to be getting it at the end of October, already. And like, I'd love to be able to bring on some more artisans this year, and I don't know if we'll be able to. So, I don't know if we'll be able to open any more spots up. So we do still have openings, but they're filling fast. So
Maybe we can get Angela to put that contact information up one time real quick. That way,
thank you.
those people can call you tonight, and you can catch that call in the morning when you get to the office.
That's awesome. Yeah, come.
And
come
McCann
on
had
out.
mentioned earlier that he was in the market for a new one and was wanting to know, what the rate was, how quick,
Mm-hmm.
you could get one out, or how backlogged you were. Actually, I think was the answer.
Yep. So right now, like I said, it'd be late October would be, right now, and that'll just get later. I mean, we'll probably be in November by next week for turnaround time on that.
Yeah. And I hope this show helps with that too.
Me too. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, guys, we will run the list of shows here at the end of the show for the TNL Network production. So tune in, kick up your heels, join in the fun, all for 2026. I want to say thank you to School of Santas, Stuffer Santas, King Insurance, North Pole Cornerstone, Santa Nana, Nationwide Santas, Caboots, Thermapparel, Holiday Photo Magic, Angie's Original, and Cherry Hill Programs. Thank you again to Jessica Lamb. We don't have a promo for her, but we always like to mention and say thank you. Tell everyone good night, Spangle.
Good night, Spangle.
Remember to join us here for Tuesday Night Live each week, 7 p.m., same Claus time, same Claus channel. Count your blessings, not your sorrows. Have a blessed week. And remember, always let your Claus heart shine bright. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you all.
See everyone.
Much.
Stick around. We'll see you in the green room.